The station of broken dreams. The train screeched as it slowed into the dusty little station, smoke curling into the late afternoon sky. The platform wasn't much, just a weathered wooden bench, a crooked telegraph pole, and a scattering of townsfolk who'd come to greet arrivals or watch the great iron beast thunder by. Clara Dawson sat stiffly, clutching the small carpet-bag that carried all she owned. Her gloved fingers trembled as she smoothed the folds of her dress, one she had stitched herself to look presentable for the man who was supposed to meet her. She was 24, older than most mail-order brides. A seamstress by trade, she'd grown tired of the city life where every turn seemed to remind her of how little she had: no dowry, no family, and no future. When she answered an ad placed by a widower in Montana Territory, she thought perhaps God had sent her a chance at a new beginning. His letters had been kind, careful, and full of hope. He had signed them, Mr. Henry Whittaker, rancher and father. For months, Clara dreamed of this man, his promises of fresh air, honest work, and a home where she might belong. She had pictured herself mending curtains in a ranch house, kneading bread for supper, and hearing the laughter of children instead of the silence that had haunted her rented room back east. But now, as passengers disembarked, her heart faltered. Families embraced. Men tipped hats to their sweethearts. Women greeted brothers and cousins. But no man stepped forward for her. Minutes bled into an hour. The crowd thinned, leaving Clara alone. A few lingering eyes fell on her, whispers, curious glances, a stranger's pity. Her throat ached as reality crushed her. He wasn't coming. She pressed her lips together to hold back sobs. All her courage, all her savings, all her hope, wasted on a dream that never materialized. She bent her head, tears slipping free as the dust of the platform clung to her hem. Forsaken! The word drifted through her mind like a cruel echo. Clara wasn't sure how long she sat there, staring at the tracks, when a soft tug at her sleeve startled her. She blinked and looked down. A little girl, no more than 6, stood beside her. She had a mess of golden-brown curls tied back with a faded ribbon and the bluest eyes Clara had ever seen. Her dress was plain but neatly mended, her boots scuffed with play. The child tilted her head and whispered, almost shyly, "My papa needs you." Clara's breath caught. The girl said it as if it were the most natural truth in the world. Her tiny fingers clung to Clara's skirt as if she had chosen her from the crowd. "Why, your papa?" Clara managed to stammer. The girl nodded solemnly. "He's waitin', but he don't know it yet." Before Clara could find her voice, the girl slipped her hand into Clara's gloved one and tugged her gently. Against all sense, Clara rose to her feet, drawn by something she couldn't name. Across the platform, leaning against the telegraph post, stood a tall man. His broad shoulders filled out a worn but well-kept coat, his dark hair ruffled from the wind. He wasn't young, lines creased his face, but there was strength in the way he stood, quiet and steady. His eyes met Clara's, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. The man's gaze flicked to the child holding her hand, then back to Clara. His expression was guarded, as though carrying a weight too heavy for words. The girl beamed and called, "Papa." He strode toward them with measured steps, boots striking the wood. When he reached them, he knelt slightly, laying a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Lily," he said in a deep, steady voice, "what are you doing?" "She was sad," Lily said simply, "and you need someone." Clara's cheeks burned. She dropped her gaze, ashamed of her tear-stained face. She expected him to scold the girl, to send her away, to walk past without another word. Instead, silence stretched between them. Finally, he spoke. "You came off the train?" "Yes," Clara said softly, barely audible. His brow furrowed. "Were you expected?" Her throat tightened. She shook her head faintly, unable to admit the humiliation outright. Something softened in his eyes. He straightened, towering above her, and for a heartbeat Clara felt the warmth of being seen, not as a failure, but as a woman standing, bruised by life yet unbroken. "I'm Henry Whittaker," he said at last, voice quiet. Clara froze. The name struck like a bell. The letters. The promise. The man who had written her dreams. But why hadn't he come? Why the silence? "You," her voice faltered. "You wrote to me." His jaw tightened, regret flickering in his eyes. "I did." The world tilted beneath her feet. "And yet." I never meant for you to come, he interrupted, almost harsh, but his eyes betrayed sorrow. After my last letter I couldn't go through with it. I tore up the papers. I thought you'd understand. Clara's knees weakened. Her chest ached with betrayal. You thought wrong, she whispered. Lily's small voice broke in. Papa, don't be mean. She's nice. She belongs. Both adults turned to the child. Her innocent certainty silenced them. Henry rubbed a hand across his face, clearly torn. Lily, hush. You don't understand. But Clara's tears had dried now. Instead, a quiet strength stirred in her. She looked at the girl, then back at Henry. You should know, Clara said, her voice steadier than she felt. I gave up everything for this journey. There's no home waiting for me back east. If you don't want me, I'll find work somehow. I've done it before. Henry stared at her, wrestling with something deep inside. Finally, he said, I didn't want to bring another woman into pain. My wife's grave is fresh. My daughter deserves better than a stranger. Clara's heart softened despite her hurt. She saw the grief etched in him, the fear of opening wounds that never healed. Gently, she knelt to Lily's height and brushed a curl from her forehead. Your papa loves you very much, she whispered. Lily nodded earnestly. But he's lonely. Henry's breath hitched, as if the child had spoken aloud what he'd buried for months. For the first time since stepping off the train, Clara didn't feel forsaken. A spark had lit in the shadows, fragile, uncertain, but alive. The sun dipped lower, painting the platform gold. Townsfolk had gone, the train long departed, yet the three of them remained, bound by fate, by grief, by an unspoken hope none dared name. Clara rose slowly, dusting her skirt. If you'll allow it, Mr. Whittaker, I'll come no closer than you wish. But I'll not turn Lily away when she asks me to stay. Henry studied her, a storm of emotions crossing his face. Finally, he gave a slow nod, heavy with resignation yet touched with something more. Come on then, he said quietly. The ranch isn't far. Lily squealed with delight, tugging Clara's hand. See, Papa, I told you she belongs. As they walked from the station into the wide, untamed land beyond, Clara dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, the story of her life wasn't ending here. It was only beginning. A home she never expected. The wagon wheels creaked along the dusty road, the sun bleeding crimson into the western sky. Clara sat stiffly on the bench beside Henry, while Lily bounced between them, humming a tune. Silence stretched long. Clara folded her hands tightly in her lap, afraid to speak. Henry kept his eyes on the road, his broad shoulders tense beneath his coat. Only Lily chattered, her small voice weaving through the stillness. Papa, can she sleep in Mama's room? The little girl asked suddenly. Henry's jaw tightened. His grip on the reins turned white-knuckled. No, Lily, he said flatly. That room stays shut. Clara's heart ached. She stole a glance at Henry, but his profile was like stone. Whatever grief lay there was raw and unyielding. When they reached the ranch, dusk had settled over the land. The house rose sturdy and plain, surrounded by outbuildings, a barn, and pastures stretching into shadow. Chickens scattered as the wagon pulled in, and a lone dog barked in greeting. Henry helped Lily down, then offered his hand to Clara. She hesitated, then placed her gloved fingers in his. His touch was steady but distant. Inside, the home smelled faintly of pine wood and smoke. It was simple, a large hearth, a sturdy table, shelves lined with jars and tools. The kind of place built with calloused hands and quiet endurance. Henry showed her to a small room near the kitchen. You can stay here for now, he said. His voice was courteous, but clipped, as though careful not to give more than necessary. Clara set down her carpet-bag and turned to face him. Mr. Whittaker, she said softly, I don't want to be a burden. If you'd rather I leave. His gaze caught hers, intense and unreadable. If I wanted you gone, Miss Dawson, I wouldn't have brought you here. Her breath caught at the firmness in his words. Then Lily burst into the room, dragging a ragged doll by the arm. "You'll stay forever, won't you?" she asked Clara. "Papa needs someone to help, and I need someone to tell stories at night." Clara knelt, smoothing the girl's curls. "I'll stay as long as I'm welcome, little one." Henry lingered in the doorway, something flickering in his eyes at the sight of Clara and Lily together. He turned abruptly. "Supper's in an hour." Days turned into weeks. Clara mended clothes, swept floors, cooked when Henry allowed it. At first, he watched her closely, as if waiting for her to falter. But Clara worked without complaint. She tended the chickens, patched the fence, and even joined Lily in the garden, teaching her how to stitch doll clothes from scraps. Slowly, the walls began to crack. One evening, Clara carried a basket of laundry to the porch and found Henry sitting alone, staring at the horizon. A bottle rested at his feet, untouched. She set the basket down. "You work too hard, Mr. Whittaker." He didn't look at her. "Work's the only thing that keeps the past quiet." Clara's heart ached at the shadows in his voice. She sat carefully beside him. Grief never leaves, but sometimes it softens if you let someone share it. His eyes flicked to her, sharp and searching. For a moment, she thought he might push her away. But then he sighed, the sound heavy with years of carrying too much. "My wife, Margaret," he said at last. "She died last winter. Fever took her in 3 days. I thought—" he paused, voice breaking. "I thought I'd follow right after. But Lily, she kept me here. She's all I have." Clara laid a gentle hand over his. "Then you're blessed, Mr. Whittaker. And she's blessed to have you." His hand didn't move away. For the first time, warmth lingered there. The next morning, Clara found Lily waiting at the table with a grin. "Papa smiled last night," she whispered conspiratorially. "He don't do that much." Clara laughed softly, brushing the girl's hair. "Then we'll have to make sure he does more often." And slowly, laughter returned to the house. Lily's giggles filled the halls, joined by Clara's gentle voice and, at times, Henry's rare but growing chuckle. One night, a storm lashed the plains, shaking the windows. Lily cried in her bed, and Clara hurried to comfort her. As she rocked the child, Henry appeared at the doorway. His eyes softened at the sight, Clara holding his daughter as though she'd been born to her arms. When their gazes met, something unspoken passed between them. Weeks turned into months. Clara's presence wove into the fabric of the ranch. She became more than a guest, she was family. One evening, Henry returned from the fields with dust in his hair and exhaustion in his stride. Clara met him at the door with a cool drink, her smile weary but warm. "You didn't have to wait up," he murmured. "I wanted to," she replied simply. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, almost without realizing it, he reached to brush a stray curl from her cheek. Clara's breath hitched, her heart leaping at the tenderness in the gesture. "Clara," he whispered, her name heavy with meaning. "Yes," she breathed. Before he could speak further, Lily burst into the room with her doll, chattering happily. The moment passed, but the warmth remained. It was Lily, in the end, who spoke what neither adult dared. One night, as Clara tucked her in, Lily whispered, "You'll be my mama now, won't you?" Clara's eyes blurred with tears. She kissed the girl's forehead. "If your papa wishes it, sweetheart." Henry stood in the doorway, silent, his eyes glistening. Later, when Lily slept, he stepped out onto the porch with Clara. The night was quiet, stars scattered across the vast sky. "I never meant to love again," he said hoarsely. "But you've given Lily her laughter back. And you've given me hope I thought was gone." Clara's tears slipped free, her heart soaring. Henry took her hands in his, rough and warm. "If you'll have me, Clara Dawson, I'd be proud to call you my wife." She smiled through her tears. I came here forsaken, Henry. But you and Lily, you've given me a home. Yes. Yes, I'll have you. He pulled her into his arms, the kiss that followed sealing not just a promise, but a new beginning. Epilogue. The station where Clara once wept seemed a distant memory. Now, she rode there with Henry and Lily, not as a forsaken woman, but as a wife and mother. The townsfolk no longer whispered pity. They nodded with respect. For the woman once abandoned had found her place, not through letters or promises, but through love forged in sorrow, healing, and hope. And when Lily slipped her hand into Clara's and whispered, "See, I told you Papa needed you," Clara could only smile. Because the little girl had been right all along.